Hi everyone, welcome back to Learn With Me. I'm Deborah Hanson, and today we're going to be looking at AP Human Geography 1.5, Human Environmental Interactions. Today we're just going to be looking at the key terms for this part of Unit 1. If you want to know all of the CED questions explained, essential knowledge, everything you need to know to prepare for the exam, those are on separate videos. This is simply the key terms. So before we get started, I just want to thank everybody who's liked and subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it, and I love all the comments and emails that I've been getting from all over the world, which has been amazing. I sit here in Dubai and I do these um, YouTube videos, and I really hope they are helping you. So if they are, please do me a favor back and hit that like and subscribe. So here on the slide, you can see all the key terms for 1.5, the important ones that you need to know to prepare for the exam. And remember, it's more about just the definition, but it's about knowing the definition and then being able to apply it to an MCQ or an FRQ. There are a lot of them for 1.5, but we're going to go through each one: definition, explanation, and an AP exam tip. Okay, first key term we're going to look at is human environment interaction. So the definition is the ways in which people adapt to, modify, or depend on their environment. For example, building dams for water storage or flood control. Here's an exam tip. Mention how this theme shows the reciprocal relationship between humans and nature. Oops. Okay, we're going to look at environmental determinism, the belief that the physical environment determines human behavior and societal development. So, for example, people in tropical climates are less industrious due to the heat. This is a historical view. So, use this term when discussing outdated theories. It has largely been replaced by possibilism. Oh my God, possibilism. So let's get started with human environment interaction. The definition is the ways in which people adapt to, modify, or depend on their environment. Example, building dams for water storage or flood control. So on the exam, mention how this theme shows the reciprocal relationship between humans and nature. Environmental determinism. So this is kind of an old-fashioned one. Okay, we use this more for historical references. The definition is the belief that the physical environment determines human behavior and societal development. So, for example, that people in the tropical climates are less industrious because of the heat. This is a historical view. So use this term when discussing outdated theories because this has largely been replaced by possibilism, which we are going to look at now. Possibilism is the theory that environment sets limits, but people can overcome them using technology and culture. So, for example, farmers using irrigation in arid regions. So, you can contrast this with environmental determinism to show how human innovations can reshape geographic outcomes when you're doing your FRQs on the exam. Cultural ecology. The definition is the study of how human societies adapt to local environments. For example, indigenous groups using slash and burn farming techniques. Use this when you're asked to explain human adaptation to environmental challenges. Sustainability, the definition, using resources in a way that ensures they are available for future generations. For example, using solar energy instead of fossil fuels. Here's an exam tip. This often appears in questions about resource management and development, so then connect it to conservation. Natural resources, materials found in nature that are used by humans for economic and survival purposes. Example, water, forests, minerals, and fossil fuels. So exam tip, you need to know the difference between renewable and non-renewable resources when you're using this term. So let's go on to the next one. We're going to do the definition for both of those. Renewable resources. Renewable resources are natural resources that can be replenished or regenerated naturally at a rate close to or faster than the rate at which they are consumed. For example, solar energy, wind energy, and timber when harvested sustainably. Here's an exam tip. When discussing sustainable development or energy alternatives, talk about renewable resources. Non-renewable resources. This resources that exist in finite amounts and cannot be replaced on a human time scale. For example, coal, oil, and natural gas. So mention environmental concerns and long-term sustainability when you use this term. Resource depletion. The exhaustion of natural resource due to overuse or unsustainable practices. For example, overfishing leading to a collapse of the fish population. For exam tip, frequently appears in sustainability or environmental degradation questions. Land use patterns. The definition is the spatial arrangement of various uses of land, whether it be agricultural, residential, or industrial, or commercial. Example, urban areas with grid street patterns, and zoning districts. Exam tip, explain how land use reflects economic priorities, cultural, and and population density, not political. Agricultural land. The definition is land used for farming, including crops and livestock. For example, cornfields in Iowa or rice paddies in Southeast Asia. Exam tip: use this to explain how land is allocated and its relationship to food production and sustainability. Deforestation. The definition is the removal of forests for agriculture, development, or other human activities. For example, clearing the Amazon rainforest for cattle ranching. Exam tip: often used in environmental impact questions, so you want to link it to climate change and biodiversity loss. Desertification. This is the process by which fertile land becomes desert due to overgrazing, deforestation, or climate change. For example, parts of the Sahel region in Africa are becoming arid and unproductive. For the exam tip, use this key term when discussing sustainability in dry regions or environmental degradation. Urbanization, the growth and expansion of cities, often leading to land use change and environmental stress. So, for example, rural to urban migration, increasing city populations in India. Here's your exam tip: linked to changes in land use, pollution, and demand for resources. Climate change. The definition: long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns mainly due to human activity. For example, rising global temperatures and increased frequency of extreme weather events. Here's an exam tip: this often appears in questions on sustainability, environmental modification, or global impacts. Pollution. The definition is the introduction of harmful materials into the environment affecting air, water, or land quality. For example, industrial waste, contaminating rivers, or smog in major cities. Use this when discussing sustainability challenges and the impact of urbanization or industrialization. Conservation. Definition is the sustainable use and management of natural resources to prevent exploitation or degradation. Example: rotating crops or setting fishing quotas. Here's an exam tip: this key term is used in sustainability questions. Contrast it with preservation for nuance. Preservation. The definition is protecting natural resources from use, maintaining them in their current state. For example, establishing a national park where no resource extraction is allowed. Here's your exam tip: use this when discussing environmental protection without human use. It's the opposite of conservation. Environmental modification. The definition is human actions that change the natural environment to meet needs or goals. Example: constructing irrigation canals or draining wetlands for farming. So here's your tip: it's often linked to human environment interactions and potential negative impacts on ecosystems. Ecological footprint. The definition is the measure of human impact on the Earth's ecosystems in terms of resource use and waste production. For example, a large carbon footprint from frequent air travel and high energy consumption. Here's an exam tip: this is great for connecting personal or societal behaviors to sustainability and global resource use. Carrying capacity. The definition is the maximum population size an environment can support without environmental degradation. For example, overpopulation in region causing food and water shortage. So you can use this when explaining limits to population growth or environmental sustainability. Built environment. This is the human-made surroundings that provide the setting for human activity like buildings and infrastructure. For example, urban skylines, roads, parks, and neighborhoods. This is great for connecting human geography with land use, urbanization, and human-environment interaction. Okay, so those are all the key terms you need to know for 1.5. Remember, the key terms are the key to the 5, so you need to know them, not just the definition, but you need to be able to apply them. So learn some examples to go with them, learn how they connect together, learn how you can apply them into an FRQ or use them in an MCQ. Really super important. If you found this helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button for me. If you have any questions, also down below, always happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much for listening today. See you next time.